Okay, then predicting the Los Angeles Chargers record prediction. So I'm not really a fan of the Chargers this year. Looking at their rosters, obviously, I think their skill position players are a real weakness. Wide receivers, they don't really have anybody. And their running back is made of glass. And I know Jim Harbaugh likes to use his running back. He's going to have a good running game, but those backs are like glass. Like I said, they're going to get injured by mid-season. Herbert is injured right now. I think that will stunt his development in the new scheme. And their offensive line, tackles don't look that bad, but the interior offensive line definitely a little bit of a concern. And honestly, it's their defense. I'm also not a big fan of. Just to me, they're too top heavy on defense. Joey Bosa is made of glass. Khalil Mack is starting to get old. Derwin James is good, but he's only one guy, and other than that, they have a couple of all right pieces like Perryman and Asante Samuel. But other than that, there's just so top heavy with injuries, old star players on defense that I just don't like them. But you have your first game versus the Raiders. Um, this one, last time they played the Chargers, the Raiders absolutely destroyed the Chargers. I like that Gardner Minshew is starting. I think that gives the Raiders a better chance. He's really like boom or bust quarterback, and I think he's gonna boom this game. I think the Raiders have a very good defense, and with the brand new offensive scheme, I think the Chargers are gonna struggle a little bit. So I'm taking the Raiders week one. Then week two versus the Panthers. Both these teams are new. They both have new schemes. However, Harbaugh is a more experienced coach. They have the better quarterback. Panthers are still very young with a lot of new pieces. So I'm taking the Chargers here. And you have them versus the Steelers. This just isn't a game that I see the Steelers losing. Steelers, I think their defense is way too good to be like shocked by that new Chargers offense. And I think that Steelers offense will do enough. I think with a veteran quarterback like Russ, the Steelers will do enough. And I just trust that Steelers defense, so I'm taking the Steelers here. Then week four versus the Chiefs. The Chargers do play the Chiefs pretty tough. However, it's early in the season. That Chiefs have a very, very good defense. And that Chiefs offense, I think, will stress out that Chargers defense. I'm going to take the Chiefs here. In week six versus the Broncos, Chargers are coming off a bye, but Chargers don't really play against the Broncos that well. Um, Broncos have home field advantage, so I think the Broncos, Bo Nix is looking really good. I think the Sean Payton gets this win. Week seven versus Arizona. I can see this game going either way. Both these teams don't have the best skill position players. To me, the Cardinals are like a slightly worse version of the Chargers. They have a slightly worse head coach, slightly worse quarterback, a slightly worse defense. So I'm giving it to the Chargers here. You have Week 8 versus the Saints. This game is could also go either way. On talent wise, it's gonna be the Saints. I think their defense is really good. However, the Saints have Dennis Allen, and I don't trust that Saints offense. And I think Chargers with home field advantage. I think that the Saints fall into the trap, so I'm giving it to the Chargers here. In week 9 versus the Browns, Browns have probably one of the best home defenses, and that Browns offense I think will do enough. So I'm taking the Browns, especially with big home field advantage. In week 10 versus the Titans, I can see this game going either way as well. Titans, their team isn't bad. The Titans have good wide receivers. Their defense isn't horrible. Chargers at this point in time, I'm not sure how healthy their running backs will be, but Titans do well versus the run game, so I'm taking the Titans here. In week 11 versus the Bengals, Bengals are coming off a mini bye. I think the Bengals being Super Bowl contenders, I think their offense is just way too good for that Chargers defense to stop, so I'm taking the Bengals here. Similarly, week 12, you got another Super Bowl contender in the Ravens. Even though Ravens lost a few pieces, especially along their offensive line, I think Lamar Jackson is good enough, and that Ravens defense is also good enough, so I'm taking the Ravens here. You have them versus the Falcons. Falcons are coming off a bye. They're also, to me, more talented than the Chargers, even though the Falcons, their head coaching situation is worse than the Chargers. I think that talent alone will get the Falcons the win here. I'm taking the Falcons. Then week 14 versus the Chiefs. Like I said earlier, the Chargers do play the Chiefs decently well, and so I do believe they're going to split. I think that Jim Harbaugh scheme will do enough, so I'm going to take the Chargers upsetting the Chiefs here. Then you have them versus the Buccaneers. I think that Buccaneers offense is just way too explosive. I think that Chargers defense is going to struggle this year. And this one I think can be a shootout game, but I'm taking the Bucks here. Week 16 versus the Broncos. Like I said, Chargers don't exactly play the Broncos well, but Broncos aren't the most talented team. This one's gonna be tight, but I think the the Broncos will get the win. I think that Broncos defense played a lot better late last year, and I think they'll continue to be good this year, good enough to slow down that Chargers offense. So I'm taking the Broncos here. Week 17 versus the Pats. This one, the Pats have a very, very good defense, but their offense is shit, so I'm going to take the Chargers. And then week 18 versus the Raiders. Similarly, the Raiders have a very good defense as well, but I think their offense is good enough, so I'm going to take the Raiders. So ending at the Chargers going 5 and 12, 1-5 in the division, 1-7 at home, and 4 and 5 away.